Have you ever noticed that suddenly everybody online has a psychology degree? Just go spend 10 minutes on TikTok or Instagram and you'll hear words like narcissist, trauma bond, gaslighting, attachment styles, avoidance, anxiety, and emotional unavailability. These are real concepts, but what happens when they're stripped of context and turned into social media content? Today, we're talking about how the algorithm rewards certainty over nuance and what that means for our relationships today. Welcome back to Undivided. I'm your host, Adam Maxwell, where we talk about rebuilding your life through faith, discipline, and adventure. Today, I'm going to discuss how mental health awareness has given people language to understand themselves better. But social media has reduced that language into buzzwords. When every single disagreement becomes gaslighting, every selfish person becomes a narcissist, and every difficult relationship becomes toxic, we lose the ability to understand people with nuance and extend grace where it's truly needed, automatically discarding people before we really get to know them. And that brings us to the rise of the pop psychology. Mental health awareness is a good thing. I think that knowing why you are acting the way that you are is especially good. I wouldn't have done the first 10 episodes of my podcast if I didn't believe that. But awareness isn't the same as understanding, right? You take a look at these platforms you use today, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, so on, and so on. And how do they truly reward you, right? They reward you with simple answers, even if they're not true, black and white thinking, even when there's gray areas, quick diagnosis, like of somebody's problem. Oh yeah, this will fix you. And the viral relationship advice that's going on out there. But the problem is complexity doesn't perform well online. I'm guilty of it just as well as everybody else is. I've got to take this long form video that I appreciate everybody listening to, and I've got to cut it down into little snippets for people to digest. Because long form videos or excessive text, people drop their interest almost immediately. If they see that that's going to be a 10-minute video or a 4-paragraph post, I can assure you there's very few people to make it all the way through that. So when you're sitting out there and you're trying to give people good advice, you have to be able to throw snippets at them to draw them in further. And the problem is that there's very few people that are willing to do that. But I'm glad that you're here with me and you are. The fact is that these long form videos and excessive text are not really hitting the nail on the head for a lot of people, but the confidence behind their stuff and the short form quick posts do draw their attention in. So that's where I was saying I've got to make these shorts and make them quick and make them powerful in order to even get anybody to walk this way. And the fact is the algorithm rewards the person who sounds most certain, not necessarily the person who's the most accurate, which is unfortunate. Because that gets us into like these labels and truly understanding the labels. Because you have these people out there talking about like the psychology of people or their emotions or all these things, but they have these buzzwords, they have these labels that they throw on these people, and the question is you know the label, but do you truly understand it? We can start with gaslighting, love bombing, narcissist, red flags, emotional availability, and boundaries. I think that most people can probably elaborate on that a little bit, but some people just see them as they're all just bad, right? They're all these concepts, which they're legitimate concepts, but the question is do these people really know what they mean? Do you really understand what it means? Or are we just using these labels before we even get to know people? So do you know what these things really mean, right? So gaslighting, for instance, what is gaslighting? Gaslighting is a psychological and emotional abuse where the manipulator makes you question your own memory, perception, or sanity. Whether it's you question them and they deny, and make you think that your memory is wrong, They minimize your feelings at all turns, and they try to shift the blame, even though oftentimes it's their fault for whatever problem is really happening. That's somebody who gaslights all the time. Love bombing is an emotional manipulation tactic where someone overwhelms you with excessive affection, attention, and grand gestures early in a relationship. Not saying that grand gestures aren't wonderful and these things aren't good, but there's more to look for with like truly that label. Just because somebody does something wonderful and grand for you doesn't mean that they're love bombing you specifically. But somebody who is love bombing you, and we'll get into it a little bit later, often they push for rapid relationships, right? They want to move forward. I love you and all this stuff really, really soon. Communication overload, where they tell you everything about themselves, like everything. Extravagant gifts and beyond, right? So that moves us into the narcissist. A narcissist is a person who is excessively self-absorbed, craves constant admiration, and lacks genuine empathy for others. They have a sense of entitlement. They lack empathy, and empathy is the ability to walk in somebody else's shoes, not literally, but figuratively, right? Where you can use your life's experiences and have an understanding for how somebody feels in a situation. They don't have that, or they lack, not saying they don't have it at all, but they lack the ability to do that. And they need validation. They need constant validation to maintain the fragile sense of self-worth that they already have. Most narcissists have low self-worth, but they wouldn't let you know that, I can tell you. And that moves us to red flags. Red flags are warning signals or signs indicating that a situation, person, or behavior is unsafe, problematic, or requires immediate attention. That's controlling behavior. And back to like love bombing, right? So if they have controlling behavior, they're love bombing you. And another thing with love bombing and the controlling behavior and the love bombing have in common is that a lot of times they'll separate you from family and friends, and they're the only one that matters, and the love is just, it's too strong, and you have to spend every second together. That's a big red flag. The lack of empathy is a big red flag, disrespecting boundaries and micromanaging situations and people. Disrespecting boundaries, that really includes physical boundaries, mental boundaries, all kinds of ways. But the lack of empathy thing too, like that, an easy way to really determine that is when you're with somebody, especially early on, is that if you go out to dinner, if you go places, you go to a sporting event or whatever, and just observing how that individual interacts with people like servers and janitors and people at the concession stand. Um, and I hate to like put people into categories, but we kind of are, right? There's high end jobs, and then there's the lower end side of the job field, right? Like the levels of jobs that are out there, and people who are servers and bartenders. I love servers and bartenders. I was one for many years, and a cook and a chef, and just see how they treat those people. And if they treat them with disrespect and they're dicks to them, I would just move on. I really would. I'd run for the door, I'd split the check, and get the heck out of there. The next is emotional availability or emotional unavailability. So basically, anything that I'm saying, you put opposite to it, and all of a sudden you know what the other side of it is. It's the capacity to be open or closed, present or not, and to respond to your own and others' emotions properly. It's allowing a vulnerability, of having a conversation that is uncomfortable, but it is important to have, actively listening to the other person, not constantly on their phone, being self-aware. Self-awareness is one of the harder ones out of it all, right? Like as far as being emotional, if you're not self-aware and you don't see the problems that you have going on, you might need to take a second and, look at your life and reevaluate things. Consistency, words and actions align, right? So if I say I practice what I preach, right, or whatever, if I'm doing things that are, I'm saying that I'm not going to drink or do drugs or be perfect, and then I go out and I drink and I do drugs and I'm imperfect. And I'm not saying we need to be perfect, but are these people consistent? Are you consistent? Then you're probably more emotionally available. If you're inconsistent and you're really lying to yourself, you might not be available to people emotionally. And emotional boundaries it limits you set and protect your feelings and mental energy. So stop over explaining things to people when you make a decision in life and you feel it's good for you and your loved ones around you. But you don't have to explain yourself all the time. That's okay. That allows you to have less stress in your life. And protecting your peace with friends. Like if somebody's trying to tell you too much information about a situation, about their love life, you don't want to hear about, or if it's leaning into getting into gossip, you can just simply tell them, hey, I appreciate you and I love you, but I do not want to talk about this with you because I feel uncomfortable with it. And people pleasing, that's a big one. A lot of people are people pleasers, and you can say no to people respectfully. You can just say, hey, I don't have time for it. I apologize. Next time, please ask in the future if you need help with things, but I have no time right now. Because if you overextend yourself and you stretch yourself too thin, you can easily just completely accidentally bail on somebody. And what's worse, me saying, hey, sorry, I can't help you this time, or you not showing up and that person just getting enraged, because that's what'll happen. I guarantee it. So those are some of the concepts that are out there that people are talking about, and they don't really explain them to you. They just use these buzzwords and they almost confuse people, right? Like, what does it really mean? So you can always go back and Google this stuff yourself or whatever you want to do and get into that. But these are legitimate concepts in many contexts, but are your perceptions truly accurate when it comes to them? Have we become quicker to label people than understand them? Sometimes someone isn't manipulative, right? Sometimes they seem manipulative, but sometimes they're just immature, insecure, or just simply wrong. They think they're right. That's a big problem out there these days, is people that have this like unending confidence in what they think. They don't even look into it. They just think that they're right all the time. But those aren't the same, right? Being manipulative or immature or insecure or just simply wrong are not the same. But it's easily mistaken without gaining the context of the conversation or the context of the situation. If you just automatically like, that guy's just being manipulative. Well, maybe he's not. If you talked a little further beyond, maybe he just needs to be schooled a little bit. So just remember that not every unhealthy behavior points to a disorder. Sometimes it points to a person that needs to grow. And you can be the person that helps them, maybe. Because if you're in a good state, if you're in a good place, what are you doing not helping other people that need it, right? And that gets us into the cost of the diagnostic thinking. When every flaw a person has is seen as like a fatal character defect, relationships become shallow, fragile, and nearly impossible, right? Judgment and discernment are different and the same a little bit, but they are very different. Because discernment seeks understanding and truth, allowing you to see the situation for what it truly is. Judgment assigns value or blame that often by measuring different, what is different, like what is lacking in this person or what is wrong with them, using the present state of their being in the moment as a final conclusion. When sometimes, when that judgment happens, you automatically immediately judge them in that very moment without any more context or any more conversation. And that automatically kicks them right out the door. There's a lot of that going on these days. And it makes me sad, right? Like judging people before you really get to know them, because we're a lot more similar, I think, than we are different in most cases. Sure, we can have differences in opinion, but I'm getting a little bit off topic. But diagnostic thinking is more like, it's more like judgment than discernment. And it can lead to multiple different issues, right? It can lead to like cynicism, hypervigilance, fear of vulnerability, unrealistic expectations, and cynicism is the deep distrust of other people. You just don't trust them as far as you can throw them. And sometimes you meet somebody and you have a conversation and you can be cynical of that individual. You can look at them and say, wow, I do not trust you. But if you do it automatically just because of one sentence or one thing that they've said one time, that's pretty shallow and lame of you. It makes you seem like you are a low IQ individual, right? Like, let's bring it up a notch. Hypervigilance is the heightened alertness and the scanning for hidden dangers all around you. That goes back to getting back to like the episode "The Child You Never Left Behind" in season one. That the hypervigilance oftentimes is something that happens because of how you were treated as a child, and always expecting potential danger even in safe situations, right? The fear of vulnerability, that's when you're afraid someone may judge you for your shortcomings, or fear of rejection. Um, Being vulnerable is hard. Trust me, I know when I first started this podcast, I knew that I was going to have to lay myself out there a little bit and say some things that might be uncomfortable for other people to hear, my loved ones especially. But this is beyond me. It's beyond them. This is for everybody else out there too, right? This is not just me. This is not just them. This is the people that need to hear this stuff. And I'm not going to stop until the world knows it. Uh, no matter if I make people mad or not, that's not the intention. Never will be. It's not like a gotcha question. It's not me trying to say, oh, this person failed to be there for me. Well, okay, yeah, maybe, but I'm good now. And whatever happened back then has created the man that I am today. So I'm proud of all of it. And I'm glad that I got to live the life that I have, because I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. Then there's unrealistic expectations, setting your standards so high that nobody can ever achieve them and nobody can ever get there and be on the same plane as you, right? If you have unrealistic expectations, which I think that a lot of people do, especially in certain situations, like my expectations for people making food might be a little bit too high, and everybody thinks that for sure. But if it's a free meal, I'm not going to complain. Now, if you're going to charge me for it and it's garbage, we got some problems there. I can tell you that for sure. But if you're going to have these unrealistically high expectations that you're setting for other people because you have a standard for yourself, you're not going anywhere. You're not going to achieve a good relationship with anybody ever for the rest of eternity, because how can somebody know what all your these expectations are right away? They have no idea. If they make a mistake, you talk about it, right? But like I say, a lot of those things there can go right back to the No Child Left Behind episode in season one. Take a look at that, and it goes into a lot of the psychology behind that, right? Like, why are we the way we are? What has caused it to happen? And how can we identify whether the thought process that I have is me, or is it that little kid that was hurt when I was, a long time ago? Because you don't have to have the same emotional response as that child did, because now you're a grown human being and you can take advantage of every situation, and you can work through those problems easier. Don't let the response be, oh no, trauma, and hide. And obviously there's reasons for it to still be like that. If you were, if somebody hurts you physically, mentally, or sexually, and you just can't let it go, then obviously seek a therapist and see if you can't get beyond that, because life's worth living. Um, and now people are entering relationships, and they're scouring these relationships for like these hidden pathologies instead of just getting to know the person. We're not as complex as everybody thinks we are. I think that, oftentimes we think that we're above all these other animals that are out there, but geez, I don't know. Dolphins might have it right for the most part, but what do I know? Who doesn't want to be a three-toed sloth, just chilling and not having to worry about too much other than maybe trying to cross a road. But we're all trying to like find the problem with the person. I'm going to tell you, if you're looking for the problems, you're going to find them. If you're looking for solutions, you're going to find those. So it's your prerogative. If you want to find the problems in somebody, well, good luck with that. It's not going to go well for you. It's just going to keep blowing up in your face. I can visualize it for you now, because I tell you what, you got to ask yourself, are you looking for reasons to understand people or reasons to disqualify them? Because you're afraid of what's out there, right? Because when your first instinct, let's see, how do I put this? So when your first instinct is diagnosis instead of like true curiosity, intimacy becomes nearly impossible. Because if you're going to try to make somebody out to have a problem, like it's like going to the doctor or going to the mechanic. If they want to, they could dig deeper and they could find more and more and more. I mean, go to the car dealership and have your vehicle worked on. They're going to give you a list of problems that's wrong with that vehicle so that you bring it back so that they can keep their guys employed, right? That's their job. They got to find the problems with your vehicle. But that list that they hand back to you, whether it's, something in the yellow or something in the red, do you enjoy that big, long, dirty list of things you need to fix? Right? Because all of our cars have something wrong with them. All of our brains have something wrong with them. All of our bodies have something wrong with them. And if you nitpick and you keep trying to diagnose these individuals, instead of getting to know who they are and helping them maybe, or helping yourself find your imperfections and get better in life, and have both of you have a goal, right? Do you have a goal? Are you trying to find somebody that can have a similar outlook on life as you and a similar goal in the long term and enjoying life and build it together? Because it's a lot easier to build a life together than it is in alone. And some people, it just is, in most cases. But there's awful people out there too. They definitely know how to wreak havoc on other people's lives. But that's where the red flags come in, and you run like hell if you find somebody like that. And the fact too is that like grace does not ignore the problems, right? We talk about grace or finding grace for people because we all do make mistakes. We all do stupid things. So grace is an important part of that, but grace doesn't ignore the problems. And I reiterate that I'm not arguing that people should tolerate abuse or ignore serious warning signs. And healthy boundaries do truly matter. We had to have healthy boundaries. We have to have healthy boundaries for our children and for each other. And your safety truly matters to me. And wisdom truly matters to me, because you may have been through things that I have never been through. I'm not discrediting that. I'm not saying that, oh, you need to go out there and you need to find somebody right now, no matter who it is. That is not what I'm saying. But there's truly a difference between genuine abuse and repeated manipulation as opposed to an ordinary conflict and human imperfections, right? There's a big difference between those things. And sometimes we have the ability to take these ordinary conflicts and just shut down, or see these minor or regular human imperfections and just say, well, I'm not dealing with that. It's too much work for me. I don't have time for it. Obviously, genuine abuse and repeated manipulation and harm are not the same things. And so don't think that I'm saying that they are. If you are in a situation like that, get out of it, run, find the people that you love and have them help you get away from that situation, because it's not worth it. You may love that person, but that harm to you and your family and your children just isn't worth it. So I'm saying that those two categories should not be treated the same. They are not interchangeable. But discernment doesn't mean assuming the worst. It means learning to tell the difference between these two things, right? So that leads us right in with the grace side of things, right? It leads us right into the Christian perspective of this. Because the beauty of Christianity is knowing that we are all flawed, that I've got my problems and you've got yours, but with the grace of God, we can become a better version of ourselves. And every person, and that every person deserves the grace of God. And with God, we are capable of true and real growth. Jesus never ignored sin. nor did he reduce people to their worst moments either. I mean, you can just look at the disciples. As described by Pastor Josh Howerton, which he's with Lake Point Church. I listen to him pretty often, and I think he's great. He's got a great way of really reaching out to the younger generation. He's a wonderful pastor. He's a great speaker, but I got this from him because it was impressive to me. Number one, if he memorized all of this stuff, good on you, Josh. But let's just look at it this way. Look at the disciples. And like I said, described by Josh Howerton. Moses was a murderer. Noah was a drunk. Jacob was a thief. Joseph was a convict. Samson was a bully. Gideon was a coward. David was an adulterer. Eli was a failed parent. Solomon was a womanizer. Elijah had anger issues. Jonah was a racist. Jeremiah was depressed. Mary was a pregnant teenager. Peter was a hypocrite. Matthew was an extortionist. Thomas was a doubter. Paul was a terrorist. But God can use anybody because he is the great I am. He is Yahweh. So you're never too far gone. And if you have God with you, right? So he is the great I am. He will be there for you when you need him the most, right? And you need to ask yourself this now. What if the goal of a relationship isn't to find someone without flaws, but someone who is willing to grow alongside of you? And with that said, I want to read here Psalm 128. It's a good one. Blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience with him. You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours. Your wife will be like a fruitful vine within your house. Your children will be like olive shoots around their table. Yes, this will be the blessing for the man who fears the Lord. May the Lord bless you from Zion. May you see the prosperity of Jerusalem. All of the days of your life, may you live to see your children's children. Peace be on Israel. And it just reiterates, if you have the Lord with you, no matter the difficulty, no matter what you have going on, no matter the trials, no matter the trouble, if you have him with you, you will eat the fruits of your labor. Your home will be stronger, your wife will be stronger, your kids will be stronger, you will be stronger. And just remember that grace isn't pretending problems don't exist. Grace is believing people are more than their failures. And if anybody knows that, our God, Jesus Christ, does. So, what I think we need to do with having the Lord in our lives and trying to get away from judgment so much, because it is not our job to do the judging. And that's relearning healthy discernment. And how do you do that? Well, stick around and I'll tell you. So let's see, really truly if there are some practical ways to evaluate relationships. So instead of asking like, what are their label? How do I put it? What is the person's label? What is their label? Instead of asking that, try asking, do they take responsibility? Are they teachable? Excuse me, I got a little fly in here. Do they apologize for their mistakes? Do their actions match their words? Are they growing through the process of life? Am I growing through the process of this life? Is this person helping me grow? And I'll tell you, character is revealed over time, sometimes quickly, and other times it takes a while. It can take days, weeks, months, years. But if that person is growing with you and you can answer these questions with a positive response, like, do they take responsibility? Nope. Are they teachable? Yeah. Do they apologize? Yeah. Do their actions match their words? No, not always. Are they growing? Yes. Am I growing? Yes. You know what I mean? Like, You could literally put that down and positive, negative, answer those questions. You don't even need to write down a true answer. You can just say yes, no. And if the list is too long on one side and too short on the other, then you can make that call at that point. That discernment is yours at that point, rather than judging them right out the gate. Because when my wife met me, I can assure you that I was extremely questionable of whether I answered those questions properly or not, or if she could answer them about me. But she saw something in me that I didn't. And I'm blessed to the ends of the earth knowing that she chose me, chose this life. I wouldn't change anything about how I grew up. I wouldn't change anything about how my things went, because I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't be with her. I wouldn't have my kids that I have. And I feel blessed every day to have her and my children. And you can't take that away from me, right? Yeah. So, like I say, sometimes you just have to take a minute to get to know somebody before you automatically judge them and boot them out. Again, red flags. Go back and listen to that part. And if you find these red flags to be, too many of them up in the air, then don't mess with it. Don't lie to yourself just because something feels good in the beginning. It always does, right? There's something called a honeymoon period. So this stuff it isn't revealed in a viral checklist. But it's not always revealed that way. And this checklist that I'm giving you, or the questions that I'm giving you, you obviously have to make your discernment yourself. I can't do it for you, and you need to be honest with yourself. Sometimes we're in financial situations where we feel like we need another person in our life in order to make ends meet, and sometimes that is really truly the case. But your happiness, your fulfillment, your life isn't worth $1. And if you pray every day and you have the Lord in your life, He will provide one way or the other. If you're good to people and you treat them well, others will be there for you. Sometimes you don't need to thank them. You already have, by being you each and every day. So let's take a look at this week's field assignment and what it looks like. Let's try to replace the labels with questions, right? So if you find yourself labeling somebody, take just a second and ask yourself, okay, what actually happened in the situation? What evidence do I have that this person did something wrong? Could there be another explanation of why they acted the way that they did or said the things that they said? Have I extended the same grace I hope others would give me? Unless you haven't made a single mistake in your life. Then notice how this may change your conversations, your assumptions, and your relationships around you. It might just be the best thing that you ever did to just take a minute and really, instead of just being like, nope, he made a mistake, he said the wrong thing, or she said the wrong thing, she acted in a way. Sometimes we act in a way, and you can have a conversation with that person. And if you have a conversation with that person and they're willing to talk about it and they're willing to be a real human being and have a real conversation, they might be worth keeping around. But if you talk about a situation and it's hard to do, and they explode or they act foolish or they, treat you with abuse in any manner whatsoever, then you can make your choice and your call at that point in time. It's up to you. But let's just remember, guys, that healthy relationships don't require us to ignore red flags or warning signs. They require us to develop wisdom in relationships. Wisdom knows when to walk away, but it also knows when to stay and forgive and communicate and grow. The algorithm profits when we become sus of everybody. Like everybody out there, if we're sus on everybody, we're going to have a problem there. And the gospel calls us to become discerning, but without becoming cynical. So leave that with yourself, right? The gospel calls us to become discerning without becoming cynical. And as usual, guys, I want to thank you for spending your time with me. And if you like my podcast, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, so you can stay up to date with me and my episodes and all that I'm after. I've got a lot of stuff, again, like I say, happening in the background that y'all don't see. I'm very excited about all of it. I can't wait to release the plan and release the hounds, if you will, because I have a lot going on. And this is real. This is me. This is us. We can take on the world one day at a time together, 1 week at a time together. As usual, I'm your host, Adam Maxwell, and we live undivided. So I'll see you guys every week from this point on out, and I love you all, and peace out.